Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. As the 2019 Rugby World Cup kicks off, a huge thank you for downloading our 150th episode. England take on Tonga in their Pool C opener in their first of 7 games en route to glory. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, this is it. Obviously the World Cup kicked off a couple of days ago, but today is when it really starts because England take on Tonga in their opening game. And joining me, of course, is Dan.
Wow, so 2 years in the waiting. I almost
2.5, Dan, 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
You've just thrown away 6 months, just willy-nilly.
Well, today is the day. Sorry, I almost got thrown off there. In the background, I have on Italy-Namibia. And Namibia just scored an absolutely beautiful try. Nice. But, mate, today is the day. We've been waiting for this for so long. And today is the day where England start their reign of world champions.
Their reign of terror.
Whatever it takes.
Indeed. Well, look, before we get on to it, there's a few things to talk about with that game. And, of course, today's a live episode. We had discussed doing a midweek to talk about the team, and we just thought, you know what, there's so much going on with the World Cup. The midweek episodes, which obviously we couldn't do the midweek just gone because they hadn't started yet, but the midweek episodes are going to be more dedicated towards kind of looking at what's going on in the wider World Cup, and obviously this week's slightly different with the USA game on Thursday, but going forward, so they will be more kind of like World Cup episodes, whereas these weekends are going to be focused on the England games themselves. So we'll do a little bit of kind of roundup of what's happened so far today. But yeah, going forwards, you'll get your World Cup fix midweek and then all about England at the weekends. That is the plan anyway. And, you know, the best laid plans and all that. We'll see what happens. But it's been an interesting opening weekend. In fact, no, look, before we get into it, let's just quickly, we've got a couple of reviews. We'd like to read these out. Let's get these ones done first, and then we're going to come on to what's happened so far. Sound good, Dan?
Sounds good to me.
Right, so we've had, our old friend Wade is back, short and sweet. He says, chaps, don't listen to the haters. You continue to be one-eyed and uninformed. That's your brand. Keep it up.
I don't know whether to be happy or offended by that, but I'm going for happy. Thanks, Wade.
I think, you know, Wade obviously...
I think it's meant in the manner...
I think Wade sees kindred spirits when he
I think he does.
You know, and you know, he didn't want to be the only one-eyed, uninformed person, so...
He's happy, but we're here as well.
Exactly, supporting his views. Anyway, moving on. 5 stars you've still got, so I'll take it. This is from it's from Roundup. He's titled Facing Facts. 5 stars. He says, after hearing the silly 1-star review from U-Bend on the latest episode, I needed to redress the balance. This is a podcast with a clear USP and a refreshing lack of hedged bets or thoughtful middle ground. England will win the World Cup, and that's a fact. These guys have been smart enough to get started basking in that glory for the last 2.5 years, while others just sit there waiting for it to actually happen. Question. Guys, I'm super excited to be watching England versus Argentina in Tokyo. Predictions for England's winning margin.
Oh, wow. Firstly, thank you very much for the review. Secondly, that is awesome. I hope you have a great time out there. I'm massively jealous of that. Winning margin versus Argentina. I think it'll be tight. I think we'll only win by about 18-19.
I can't go below you, Dan. That's just not how we roll. So I'm going to have to go 22.
I actually think, and it's something we may go on to. We will go on to a bit more. And Argentina did not concern me huge amounts yesterday.
No, they didn't. You're right. Let's come on to that because we'll kind of look at the France-Argentina game briefly before we get on to all the England stuff. So we'll come back to that. Stick a pin in it, Dan. Finally, from J Kelly 109, again 5 stars. Love the pod. Enjoy listening to the pod every week. I enjoy the 2 shows Billy came on. It would be good to have the 3 of you on one on one at once.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Which we can definitely look to do, and I have spoken to Billy, and he's up for it. But we just need to sort logistics and things, don't we?
Yeah.
For the purposes of recording. But he says it adds another dimension to the discussions. Keep up the great work, lads. Loving the pod. So really appreciate that from J Kelly 109.
Thank you very much.
Guys, keep those reviews coming. We like, particularly now the World Cup started, it'd be great to hear from you guys, hear what your thoughts are. Obviously, as you start to see our predictions coming true, we can hear from the haters, come back and tell us we apologise, we were wrong. That if anything goes horribly wrong, and we're talking, act of God or whatever, can't insure for these sorts of things. Then we will obviously be putting our hands up, as we always do, not making excuses. But reach out to us, guys. Head over to iTunes, rate us, review us there, or just reach out to us on email, EnglandRugbyPod@gmail.com, or on social. We're always on Twitter at EnglandRugbyPod, and we will. We want to engage with you guys. So that's what this is all about. That's what the journey's been about. We're here now. Let's make this happen. But yeah, some good reviews there. So really appreciate those.
Yes, yeah, excellent, and exactly. Thanks very much. But now. Let's get to it. This is huge. So as we record, Italy have just beaten Namibia. The next game on is the number 1 team in the world, allegedly. In case anyone's wondering who that is, that's Ireland take on Scotland. I'm looking forward to that. I think that'll be a good game.
I think it should. The way that those two have been playing, looking at the warm ups and what have you, it should be an interesting. It should be an interesting game. They know each other well, obviously, Six Nations every year. And that could go. I forget world rankings for a minute. There's been enough chat about that, but this game could go either way. I think Ireland will win.
Yeah, I think so.
But it genuinely could go either way, and it could turn out. And the great thing about World Cups is that it doesn't. You get these games where sides are evenly matched, and they turn out to be amazing matches, regardless of how good. If the quality is equal on both sides, it can be an amazing match.
Yes.
So these guys might step up and have the games of their lives, and we'll have a great game. Or they might not be very good, but it will still be a great game. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it will be an interesting one. I could be proved wrong. Maybe one will step up and one won't. But a lot to play for there. And I think both of them will be thinking, a win here is vitally important because, although Japan were by no means clinical against Russia, they have that ability to create an upset. We've seen it before. We saw it in 2015 against South Africa. They've got their first win, admittedly against Russia. One of the bankers, if you like.
Yeah.
Although credit to Russia, they gave them a good run in the first sort of half an hour or so. I mean, they scored their first. They scored the first try. They put them under pressure from the kickoff, and they looked solid. But yeah, Japan eventually won out. But yeah, I think this game is a massive one for their group because I think it pretty much guarantees the winner qualification.
Yes, I would. Think
Which is maybe a silly thing to say because it kind of applies to anybody, but it's one of the crunch games, so it's a vital input. If you've got a team with a group with 3 potential qualifiers, beating one of them is vitally important. So yeah, massive game for these guys. It'll be an interesting one to watch. But yeah, we had but going back. I mentioned Japan beat Russia. That was in the opening game. That was on Friday morning. Saturday. I mean, Super Saturday. That opening game. I don't know if any of you managed to get up at 5:15 to start watching the build up. 5:45 for the kickoff. But if you did, you'll agree it was worth it. Fiji look dangerous, mate. I know that we talk about Fiji, and there's all the talk about you never know, they could be a threat. You look at what they can do on the sevens circuit, and they are the world champions at sevens.
Fiji, player for player, have some of the best players in the world. They lack probably the fitness to offer an 80-minute challenge. That's and a lot of that's and they don't have the strength and depth. There was a slightly controversial tackle, if you want to call it that,
made fairly early on in the first half on probably one of Fiji's best players, and it resulted in him going off the pitch. The fact that when you watch the replays, it looks like it's the Australian player that comes off worse is not really the point. But they just look. The thing with Fiji is they will punish any mistakes. I think any top team that it can be clinical against them and almost and faultless should win, because Fiji are all about counter-attack. But my God, when they get that opportunity to counter-attack, do they look dangerous? And against Australia, every time that there was a handling error on the Australian side and Fiji turned the ball over, you genuinely felt like there was Fiji were going to score. And they led the game for 60 minutes. That's the first time in over 50 years that they've been ahead against Australia at the halfway mark. And it genuinely felt like we were going to see the first upset. I would not want to be a Welsh fan right now, and I know that we like to give Wales a hard time, and that's not what I'm talking about here. Wales are a defensive side. That's one of their strengths, right?
Yeah.
But like everybody, they make mistakes. They make handling errors. Fiji will punish those mistakes. Australia won that game because they reached a point where they sort of turned it up a notch and they went on the attack, and they, that's where they beat Fiji. I'm just not sure that Wales have got that in their game, and I think if they make enough mistakes early on, Fiji could make it a very difficult game to come back into for them. So
yeah,
it's a big game for Wales.
So. That is a big game for Wales, and Fiji are looking good and have the players to cause damage. But the next game on was, I think, the one that is of most interest to us: Argentina, France. So that was when I say great game, I mean great game from a drama perspective. So at the end, I don't necessarily mean great game as in it's the best game of rugby you'll ever see. What are your thoughts? I am, like I say, when I say underwhelmed, I think that's unfair because there were moments where both teams I thought looked good. France were a bit worse than I thought they probably would be. I thought France might come into this looking absolutely dangerous as hell. France weren't as threatening as I thought, but Argentina were actually a bit better than I thought they would be. I still don't see them as a huge threat based on that performance, but they were ahead of where I thought they might be, and France was slightly behind where I thought they might be.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I didn't really, to be honest with you, Dan, I didn't really know where France were. I hadn't seen the France against Scotland and Scotland against France games in the World Cup warm-ups, because obviously they put them on that stupid TV channel that no one in England is going to subscribe to because we already spend too much on every other subscription. But and there was obviously a lot of chat about France are coming good and they're just at the right time, they're looking dangerous. But a lot of that I think was coming more from looking at the team sheet. And with France, you can always look at the team sheet and say they look good. They definitely look more dangerous in the midfield. I think the decision to leave out Bastereau and that kind of the bulk that they've often gone with in the past to have a much more kind of free-flowing midfield was a good one. But I agree with you. It didn't feel, watching the game, it didn't feel like, wow, we've got a challenge on our hands, and that sounds awful to say, but it didn't. There were other games that I watched this weekend where I thought, okay, there's going to be some questions asked, and we're going to need to know how to answer them. Whereas I thought that in that game, I thought there were clear and obvious things that England could look at and go, all right, well, that's something we know we can dominate against France, and that's something we know we can dominate against Argentina. I mean, the France scrum was woeful. And I think
Miles made a difference when he came on, didn't he?
Yeah.
He said it down. Do we read into this? Is this opening game nerves, or both France and Argentina missed pressure kick? So Roman Intimac, he had a kick basically to win the game. It wasn't 100% to win the game, but if he'd got that last kick, he'd been kicking well. not that difficult to kick, and he missed. And then Argentina, a lot more difficult kick, but still very gettable. Do we read into the fact that they both missed it, which seemed more around nerves rather than anything else? I mean, do we take heart from the fact that they won't be able to shut out games, or do we just put that down opening day, you know, the sort of nerves, not really settled into the World Cup yet?
I think no. I mean, I don't know, missing kicks isn't really a team thing, is it? I mean, perhaps.
Yeah, true.
You know, if you've got a kick to beat France and, you know, potentially secure your qualification, that's a lot of pressure. Maybe it's simply that it's a pressure kick and it was too much for them. But I don't think at this stage these guys are coming into a World Cup. I don't think they can blame anything on nerves. I think, you know, you're fully prepared. You've been in camp for however long preparing for this World Cup. I think, you know, these guys are professional sportsmen, and I don't think you can point the finger at nerves for a result. I thought that they came out and they both went for it, and I think they showed us. Yeah, sure, it's easy to say, well, are capable of more. You know, you would hope so, because I don't think any team's ever going to come away from a game saying, you know, unless it's the World Cup final, saying we gave it absolutely everything we had and you know, that's all there is to it. You know, they're always going to come away going, yeah, we should have done this better and we should have done that better, and no doubt they can do better. But, you know, England have been saying the same thing. I think from our point of view, I think we look at those two sides and, you know, they're both very beatable for England. And, you know, the key thing is, obviously we've got to go out today and beat Tonga, but the key thing when those games come around is just going to be, we've got a guy who knows how to do his homework. You know, Eddie Jones, you know, this is what he does. This is what he lives for. This is why he came to England, you know, for this World Cup. He did it with Australia. Obviously they didn't win, but they reached the final. He did it with South Africa, not as the head coach, but heavily involved, and they got to the final and did win. And now he's here with England. You know, obviously the upsets of 2015 with Japan, and you know he's a specialist at identifying how do you beat each team. You know, there are lots of teams out there that they play their style of rugby, and I think the All Blacks are probably a good example. You know, that's not to take anything away from them, because obviously they're awesome and they're the best team in the world until we beat them at this World Cup. But you know, they very much play their style of rugby, and everyone else struggles to adapt to it. I think under Eddie Jones, Eddie is about going, we're going to tweak our style of rugby to each team. And there'll be people who listen to this and say, what are you talking about? England don't have a plan B. But, you know, I would argue that, well...
To those people, I'd say you don't have a plan B.
Exactly. Strong response.
Thanks.
In the typical style of the England Rugby Pod. I like it. Good. And thank you for breaking me up there. I was starting to lose my train of thought. Bottom line, these two, it didn't really concern me. Other games did.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's very quickly go through South Africa and New Zealand, because I'm just desperate to talk England today and right now. New Zealand beat South Africa, both two incredibly good teams at the moment, our two biggest threats. As you said to me when we spoke about it, that now means we are unlikely to meet New Zealand, because we'll obviously win our group. We're unlikely to meet New Zealand in the final. We'll meet them en route. And South Africa are as likely.
Congratulations to South Africa for
avoiding England.
Yeah, avoiding England until the final.
Yeah,
exactly. I see what you've done there.
Yeah, very sly. But both teams look good.
Yeah, and I just, you know, let's just put it, if England were to lose one of their group games and come second in the group, it'll be because they want New Zealand in the final.
Yeah, they want to be the best to win.
But they're not going to do that. Winning ways, that's what it's all about. Unbeaten all the way through. That's the key. That's the plan. We'll have New Zealand in the semis, South Africa in the final. And I think if you were to do that, when we do that, Dan, there can be no question.
Yes, exactly. I completely agree. But right, okay. Now this is it. This is the game of the weekend. England Tonga. Our team is this our first choice team with what's available? Obviously, Mako injured, but
when I first saw it, I thought this is our World Cup final team. I actually don't think it's quite a World Cup final team.
Who do you think if today was the World Cup final and the same injuries were there?
Well, assuming that it would be the New Zealand or South Africa, I guess there's a question. Do you, if you were going to start forward at 10 and therefore have Manu at 13, would you want Cokanasiga on one wing? So you've got that, which he's not even in the 23 today.
Yeah, that was something that surprised me, Cotton. I am surprised by both Slade and Joseph on the bench. I think the reason for that is I think Slade might come on at 12 at some point.
Yeah, quite possibly rest Farrell.
Well, it's not even just about resting Farrell.
Well, Farrell would go to 10, actually, wouldn't he?
Yeah, that's what I think. I think Eddie wants to see, because obviously Slade and Tuilagi have worked fairly well together, actually, but they worked well with Tuilagi at 12, Slade at 13. I wonder whether Eddie wants to see how that works the other way around.
Maybe. Although, yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think what people need to remember is we've got a 4-day turnaround to the USA game. So really, we need to create 2 23s out of our 31 over the course of 4 days. So for anyone going, why on earth are we playing such a strong side, against, a weaker opposition? It's because we've got 2 games, of teams in a similar position in the world rankings, 4 days apart, and you need to spread it out. And I think you play some of your big guns today because it gives them that extra amount of time to recover for.
I think you start strong as well.
Yeah, true. I say all of this, but we're probably going to see Billy Vunipola start every game. It sounds like Eddie doesn't know how to rest him.
Billy, I'm not surprised. And sorry, I'm not surprised Billy's son. I think the USA team will be very different. I think Billy might be rested for that one. I hope so.
Well, I think as well, and going back to the Cokanasiga debate, I think, or Thokanasiga, I'm not even sure how to say that one. We've been saying Cokanasiga for a while, but a lot of the pundits like to say Thokanasiga. And maybe it's not that they like to say it, maybe they know that's what his name is.
Maybe. So, maybe that could well be it.
That could be it. But anyway, obviously, we're playing Tonga, and they are a team of big bastards. So does Eddie think that having, Big Joe is actually going to be less impactful against a team that face this kind of opposition? Not England, but, big guys like Joe, on a regular basis. And he's thinking, actually, against a team like this, it's not about brawn, it's about brain. And we've got, by having May and Watson and Daly in the back 3, you've got playmakers and speedsters, and that's going to be key, particularly when you're facing a potentially tiring team of big boys in the Tongan side. And actually, someone like Big Joe is going to be far more of an impact against USA 4 days later, who have more of a sort of team of speedsters, if you like, particularly in the backs. And that when they come up against someone like him, he becomes much more of a threat. Is it? To me, that sounds like a really obvious. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Eddie has said, I can't remember his exact words, but I am massively paraphrasing him, probably get it wrong, but he said something along the lines of, Tonga are going to look to play, I don't know, game A, and we want to play game B or something along those lines.
Wow.
And I think he's picked, I know, very prophetic there, but he's picked the team that I think he's going to look to move Tonga about. He's not looking to take them on physically. He wants to move them about. And I think the team, that's a great team.
Doesn't the team have an average weight of like 19 stone per person or something?
What, Tonga team?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just their backs.
They've got the biggest prop in the history of rugby or something.
In the universe, yeah. I think it's the biggest human.
He's what?
I think it's the biggest human that's ever walked the planet.
I mean, now you're just paraphrasing again.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
But genuinely, I think he's the biggest prop to have played, professional rugby.
I didn't know that, but I had no doubt that's true.
I mean, but equally, it looks like the guy struggles to move around. I've seen.
I can't see him chasing down May. Let's put it that way.
Or Jamie George for that matter, which is one of the advantages England has.
If he just suddenly chases that, catches May, and then dumps him in half, then.
So I think England are going to definitely want to move the ball around a bit. But Tonga, like Fiji, I'm guessing, I haven't seen them play actually, other than obviously losing by 100
Tonga
points.
Are not on the level of Fiji
to New Zealand. No, but do they play a similar style of rugby? Do they like to flick the ball around?
No, Tonga like to hit hard and crash hard.
So really, our biggest concern for this one is injuries, isn't it?
I think so. Let's get real here. Let's get real. We are not going to lose today.
No.
We're not going to lose any day during the next 6-7 weeks, however long it is, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, whatever it may be.
We've made that. Yeah, we've. It's a prediction that's been made, and we're confident in it.
Yeah, but I mean, today we're not going to lose. It is like you say. It's about we've got to play our game. One selection that did quite surprise me actually when we were looking at that is Laws ahead of Cruz.
But again, is that simply?
I don't think that's good. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I think both are amazing players. But I thought Eddie had Cruz as his number one. And I think he does. I think Laws is more of an impact player.
But don't forget that Eddie doesn't need to play his World Cup final.
No, of course he doesn't.
15.
Of course he does.
And as I said before, we've got another big game in 4 days' time. So he's going to be wanting to look to rest certain players. We've got Laws, Itoje, Cruz, and therefore who's not involved? Launchbury, who I think might have a bit of a niggle. I'm not sure, but So you're probably going to see Launchbury against the USA. We'll probably see Cruz start. Maybe he's thinking Cruz, Launchbury to start against the USA. I think it's just about this is the strength of our 31. I don't think we need to read too much into the starting 15 here against Tonga and say, oh, there are people that I thought were not Eddie's go-to.
Absolutely. I do agree with that. It's a great team. That is, if that's not Eddie's first choice team of what's available, it's very close to it.
I think that's exactly right. I think it's close. I think there are a couple of people who maybe you would change it up slightly. I think, there's still that question mark of, is Ford Farrell at 10-12 the best lineup, or does he prefer Farrell at 10? We've still yet to find that out. Certainly it's looked in the warm-ups like having Ford at 10 has been a positive. But is that a World Cup final lineup? I'm not sure yet. I think we're going to see. We're going to find that out as the tests become bigger.
Yes, yeah. But let's let's go to today. I mean, obviously we've been focusing on today.
We're there, Dan. We're there.
But it's I want to watch the Scotland Ireland game. So I'm going to hit you. It's predictions. Let's not go prediction score because I think it'll be fairly. I think England by 60.
I mean, that is it's a big shout. Conditions. It's going to. We're indoors, aren't we?
Well, we are. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say conditions might play a
well, I think you still get the moisture in the air, don't you? You still.
Oh yeah, it's the humidity, but in terms of the ball being dripping wet because it's pissing with rain and making it harder to fling the ball around and play running expansive rugby, I think we're going to be able to do that still. Whereas playing outdoors in monsoon, possibly that's more difficult. I think you're probably there. Do you know what? I'm going to go 50.
Oh.
I think England are capable of putting more than that on them. What would be interesting is if they can nil them.
Yes, that will be a big part of it, actually, defensively. That'll be interesting to see. And with the kamikaze kids at 6 and 7, which I love, and well done for calling that.
You're welcome. Are we claiming that one? I mean, I don't think we ever said it before we heard it on the media, but we could just say it was us.
I'm pretty sure it was us all
I mean, we did Sir Marrow. Why is no one else doing that one?
I'm pretty sure we fought it first, even if
the
we
awesome
didn't say
foursome. That's on us.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's others too.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But yes, right. Let's do it. Ireland and Scotland are walking out, so let's watch that. But we're going
to be back, Dan. We're going to be back.
We're going to be back at half time.
Yeah. However long it will be. We're recording this one a little bit early, but we'll be back at half time. We'll see how things are getting on, and we'll catch you guys then. But for now, we're going to leave you with the anthems. Enjoy. Okay, so look, England are ahead. They seem in control. It's not quite as aggressive. I don't know what the word is. It's been an interesting first half.
England.
No, I mean, I quite like that right off the bat. It was clear that England have gone into this with a game plan. They know that in that first 20, 25 minutes, Tonga are going to be aggressive. They're going to want to try and, they're going to want to try and do some damage early doors. And England have basically gone, do you know what? We're not going to play that game. And I quite like that. That England are confident that in the second half, and I'm confident that in the second half they're going to run away with it. So they were controlling the game, but as a result, England just seem a little bit switched off, and so there's lots of unforced errors. There was a lot of situations where England, when they had possession, were running into contact with no support, so the turnovers were coming, so penalties were being conceded. They're obviously trying to placate Tonga's aggression, but becoming a bit blasé in the process, and so that was a bit of a worry. But obviously, the tries have come and.
I thought it was more. I thought there was more nerves than necessarily blasé. I thought it took a while to settle into it, but like you say, there's nothing that concerns me. They're in control of the game. I think you're spot on. They're not looking to play that Tongan game because I think I think we'd still win if we played that style of game, but there's no point to it. That's not how we play.
No, and you risk injuries. And actually, you saw what happened with Australia. They tried to do that against Fiji, and Fiji controlled them for 60 minutes. England have decided to try to control the game, take a lot of the sting out of Tonga's tail in the early stages, and I imagine are going to really step it up in the second half. But yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you don't come away from a half like that going, wow, look at this England team. It's easy to sort of go, of concerns, but I think there's a lot of control in what they're doing. I think there's a lot of intention in what they're doing. And I don't think they were planning to try and stick 40 points on them in the first half. And actually, they've still managed to score 2 tries. People will question that Mani Tuilagi one because we never actually saw a grounding in the replays. But like the one before, I sent you a message, twice, neck rolls. The one before that wasn't given, it wasn't grounded, correct. But yeah, he was rolled off the ball by his neck. And surely that's a penalty. And in that situation, last man penalty try. The Mani Tuilagi one, it was the same thing. It was a tackle round the neck. The one that wasn't given that we then took the 3 points where the Tongan player reached back with the ball, I would have been interested to see if they just played that on a little bit because he was originally questioning there was a white hand and a red hand on the ball. But if the red hand on the ball was the one that took it back, would the advantage not then be... I don't know. I don't know how the rules work in that situation.
No. If he takes it back and grounds the ball, I think it's a 5-metre scrum.
No. But he was on the ground, so he's legally not allowed to take it back in the first place.
Exactly. That's why it's a penalty.
So therefore, so the ball is now dead, even though he's done it illegally, and therefore.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it'd be the same as if he's on the floor and he grabs it and goes into touch.
Fine, but yeah. So but England, they've still managed to score 2 tries. They've looked dangerous. When they have attacked, they've made good ground. There hasn't been a lot of Tonga actually attacking. A lot of what Tonga's been doing is kind of aggressive defence and getting turnovers. So, I don't think England are going to be too worried. The referee, I think, is having a great game. I'm loving the way he's explaining everything to the players in a way that it doesn't leave any kind of ambiguity, that people understand what's going on. And as supporters watching the game, it's like, okay, can't argue too much because you're making it very clear why certain decisions are being made.
They say that. They're saying it a lot in commentary, aren't they? And you can't argue with it. I think he's been brilliant. One decision I really liked was for tackle on Anthony Watson.
Yep.
To me, that was completely fair. And if that had have been more, I think that would have set a really bad precedent for...
A president?
President. I didn't say president. Sorry, my English is going down for sort of the future. Not president, not like a clown president like Trump, but
a precedent. Anyway.
It would have been a clown decision.
I agree. I think I was looking at it thinking I almost feel a bit guilty because there's definitely an argument based on the kind of the rules, if you were to take them word for word, that you could say, well, yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is. I mean, he did well to claim that it was a shoulder to the chest. I think.
I think
it was a shoulder to the throat, but nevertheless, I entirely agree. I think there is a precedent in that situation, he's lined up a safe tackle, and Anthony Watson, after it's too late for the guy to change what he's doing, has suddenly dropped to his knees. And if you start, yellow or red carding people for things like that, yeah, you just like, what do you do then? You're now saying that you can target a safe tackle, but if the player puts himself in danger, that's on you. So I'm glad that it wasn't that the ref said, I've seen it. It's nothing. Play on.
Yeah, I think that's the right call. Quick question for you, and I've asked this before, and bearing in mind some of the Fijian players, some play, the likes of Stockdown, that. But is Manu Tuilagi the most destructive runner in world rugby?
Oh, you kind of questioned whether or not he'd be slightly negated because he's playing against some big boys who are all about physicality. But even here, he's just causing problems.
That first try, he got through. I didn't count exactly, but that's 5 or 6 tackles he's beaten.
Yeah, and it, not just attacking as well, defensively. And then that hit that he put on, and actually it's interesting. So I got a message from Billy, our Billy, who is often on the pod, just after that.
Billy,
yeah.
Hey,
not
Billy.
Billy who's on the pitch.
Right.
And yeah, it was a following that kind of massive hit from Manu, and obviously the commentators and Ugo in particular banging on about, if the guy had dropped a few inches, that could have been a real problem, which is weird considering that we've just been saying how if the defender suddenly drops, it shouldn't be on the attacking player. Anyway, Billy immediately sent me this message. Commentary on England rugby is a bit of a joke. None of the commentators mentioned anything when Bigger basically jumping elbowed Itoje in the back of the head, or when Kearney tried to decapitate Tom Curry. But Manu makes two. But Manu makes 2 legal tackles, and all the commentary team want to talk about is that he should be careful, and he could be going high if the player ducked. He said, "Fucking hell! If my aunt had a pair of balls, she'd be my uncle." And he makes a good point.
It is a good point. And it's interesting. I mean, the onus is on the tackler, but yeah, it's such a good point. It's true.
But sure. If Manu had gone higher, it would have been a high tackle.
But he didn't.
If every single tackle was higher, it would be a high tackle. Do you know what I mean? Like the commentary, yeah, it needs to commentate on what it sees in front of it, not what might have been if someone did something completely different.
Yeah. I mean, I like. Do you know what? Ugo Monya is so knowledgeable about rugby. I find him a really good comment. I mean, on that, I get exactly what you're saying, and I actually completely back Billy's point there. But he's making the calls before the ref. So with whether Tongan guy took it forward, Ugo Monya just knows everything. I really like him as a commentator. He said, like, if a guy plays on the floor, takes it back, that's not illegal. Behind the try line, there's no offside. So generally, yeah.
You're happy with Ugo's commentary.
But the take of the first half is the best performances has been by the referee and the commentary team.
It's England are ahead They're in a strong position. It's not going to be, it's not 100 points like New Zealand did, but I don't think you read too much into that, because I think England have come into this with a very specific game plan in mind. I think they are executing that game plan the way that they wanted to. Sure, they're going to go away and say we could clean up some of the unforced errors and we could be a bit more clinical, but I think we're going to see things really step up in this second half, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's 4 or 5 tries in the second half, and that we see that scoreline that we predicted, despite the slow start.
Yeah. And look, let's bear in mind, and I can't remember if it was you, Ben, the other day saying, "Oh, full of cliches." Well, I'm going to give another cliche right now. A game of rugby is 80 minutes. Yeah, that 40 minutes.
It's a game of 2 halves.
Yeah, exactly. Was that the best 40 minutes of rugby we played? No, of course it wasn't. But let's see what happens in the second half.
Well, and bottom line is the goal is to win every game.
Yeah, and like you say, I actually think our approach to this game has been quite smart.
I agree.
There isn't a need. Yes, don't get me wrong, we need the bonus point win. I'm comfortable we'll get that. But there is no need to go out full guns blazing, trying to smash the shirts of every player, trying to take them on from that point of view.
And also, Dan, we don't need the bonus point win. We need to win every game.
Well, yeah, we don't need it, but
if we win every game, bonus points are irrelevant, because
it is.
It means that everyone else lost at least one. So that's the main thing is win every game. And like I said to you, I'm not concerned. I think England are always going to be able to do more the longer the game goes on. They're in a strong position at 18-3. They're just going to add to that in the second half. So yeah, let's go and see how they get on.
Yeah, and we'll catch up at full time.
Okay, so first things first, bonus point win. England have opened their account, and points-wise, they've done what they needed to do. What are your thoughts, Dan? I mean, it wasn't exactly the thriller.
It's a bonus. It's a bonus point win. It wasn't England's best performance. I suspect that'll be our least performance of the World Cup. Constantly improving till the win in the final. There were what I found interesting and what I quite liked. I'm quite interested in your thoughts on this. Was Eddie saying that's rugby? Sometimes when David Flatman put the question to him, was it nerves? Was it getting used to the environment, or whatever? However he worded it, and Eddie's just like, no, that's rugby. Some days it didn't work, because there were some instances that were pretty poor, and there were some instances just silly mistakes, like some silly drops. If I was Willie Hines, I would at the moment be just throwing ice cubes at George Cruz when he tried to throw that ball in his face. So some of the passes were quite unsympathetic.
What about the Daly Slade?
To me, Daly needs to be deeper there.
Oh, Daly was going for the chip through. Why on earth though would you take the chance of a little dink through when it's 2-on-1?
Yeah,
Daly's, and actually, what he's let.
I hadn't seen that.
He's let Watson down, because Watson, everything now is eyes on those two, and actually, Anthony Watson had just been awesome. He just run literally 2/3 of the pitch, jinking in and out of Tongans, put Slade out wide, 2-on-1. It was about to be a bit of a wonder try by the end, and Daly's just gone complete brain fart and just fucking.
Exactly,
and you can see why Slade was annoyed as a result, because that is schoolboy.
That is your classic. The first drill most people do in rugby, 2-on-1.
Exactly. It shouldn't have been simpler.
Yeah, they were silly mistakes. They got the bonus point win. There were some great moments. I mean, don't get me, of course, and everyone says it in the reviews, of course we're biased. But, equally, let's face it, that wasn't a great England performance. Are we worried? Personally, I'm not.
No, I don't think so. I think, look, actually, I'm glad you asked that. Okay, so it would be easy for people to say, it was Tonga. If that's the best we can do, they just lost to New Zealand a couple of weeks ago, 100 points or whatever. Well, in 2003, England lost to Samoa, who are same sort of level as Tonga. 2003, England beat Samoa, but it was 35-22.
Yeah,
they went on to win the World Cup. In 2007. England beat Tonga 36-20. They ended up in the final of the World Cup. Some Welsh Norse pointed out that in 2015 England beat Fiji, but I think
I was hating the fact that come up.
But Fiji, I wouldn't say that. There was a time when Samoa and Tonga and Fiji and all of them were in the same bracket, but Fiji are in the top 10 in the world.
Fiji are a good team.
We saw against Australia. Fiji have a very good chance of qualifying. So that's not the same thing at all. And the point I was making, obviously, was, look, give these teams a bit more credit, but also, let's bear in mind that, there was a lot of handling errors, bit of rustiness, conditions, the conditioning. I know they've been working hard to try and recreate conditioning, but you're never going to be able to get it exactly right. It's the first game of World Cup. I don't know if nerves is the right word, but there's definitely some... they just need to get comfortable with one another. England have been trying a lot of different combinations. They did it again today to a degree. Certainly at certain times throughout the game, they made a lot of changes, obviously, just as things were starting to pick up. And again, that means new combinations. So I think, this whole campaign, and you've got to win 7 out of 7, or realistically, you've got to win 7 out of 7. No one's ever lost a game and gone on to win the World Cup yet. So you need to be growing with every game. And I think, for an opener, it's a bonus point win. You can't really ask for a lot more than that. Would there have been much more value in sticking 100 points on them?
No.
In the grand scheme of things, would it have changed? If anything, we've got a bonus point and some things to learn from.
There are things to learn from. I mean, Owen Farrell said that thing. There's stuff we can learn from. I do dispute that a bit. I don't think they need to learn from them. The mistakes were mistakes. They were silly mistakes. It's not like, I didn't know you shouldn't drop the ball there.
Oh no, but what I mean is,
it's just uncharacteristic.
But is the lesson taken from this, guys? Calm down a bit. We don't need to be quite so frantic. We know we've got good. We know we've got good handling skills, and this game has just shown us that when we get a bit frantic and a bit chaotic, it can go horribly wrong. Let's calm it down a bit. Let's remember our training and remember our skills, and let's just let it flow. Because I think that same game, without the handling errors, forget everything else that didn't quite work, but take away those handling errors, that same game, I think they double the scoreline.
Yeah, I think so. I think
so. That's the lesson that I think they take from this. Whereas 100-0, there could have been things they weren't getting right, but it's very difficult to spot problems if a game is that easy. And we've seen it with New Zealand over the years. Not obviously the last couple of World Cups, but prior to that, they'd be number one in the world, but they'd struggle in World Cups. And I genuinely think that a big part of that was that they would play against teams like Japan back then, stick 100 points on them in the group stages, and then all of a sudden they get into knockout rugby, and they haven't had that test. They haven't had that opportunity to kind of grow with each game because every game's been so easy for them. And suddenly they come up against a South Africa and Australia, whoever it might be, and they get knocked with France and they get knocked out. So I think there's value in this. I think there are lessons to learn. Not obviously they know the one about the don't drop the ball, but the sort of the more just about their temperament and making sure that their heads are in the right places during games, and just reminding them that, hey, trust in what we've been training.
If we play our game plan, we have well-beaten players. We have the likes of Manu Tuilagi, who, like I alluded to at the end of the first half, could potentially be the most destructive runner in world rugby. We've also got the likes of Anthony Watson. We saw what he could do. Jonathan Joseph. If we play our calm game, we have got the talent and we have got in abundance the skill to score those points.
Yep.
There was some white line fever, I think, a couple of times. Ben Young's in the first half. He definitely should have passed wide. I think...
When Joseph came on, who did he come on for? Or rather, what was it? Was he playing 12 or 13?
He was at 13, wasn't he?
A man who stepped in and Farrell went to 10.
I believe so.
Okay. I mean, because I think there's a big. I mean, just seeing what, and I know it's against Tonga and towards the end of the game when they're tired, but Jonathan Joseph looks so dangerous, and
he did, didn't he?
At the moment we are looking at Joseph. Well, for the 13 shirt, we're currently saying it's Joseph, Slade, or Tuilagi. And that's not to say that you leave the other person out of the game, obviously, but that's the options really at 13. And then at 12, the options are Farrell or Tuilagi.
I wonder if Slade is. I think it's Joseph or Tuilagi for a 13 shirt with Slade a slight afterthought, which is nothing because Slade is a great rugby player. He looks.
Do you think that little knock that he got? And I know that.
That worried me.
Yeah, he obviously got through it. Yeah. But the fact that it happened at first contact, is that a worry? Because you put a player like that on the pitch, and it's all well and good saying, well, if we've got cover if something happens, but if it looks like it's likely that something could happen, are you just basically losing one of your subs because you're almost anticipating an injury? And in which case, would you be better off having someone else, have Joseph start because they're kind of like for like?
I think Henry Slade's going to struggle to make as much of an impact in this World Cup as he could, based upon how good a player he is, because he's been out so long with injury. Because has he rushed back? I don't know. I mean, initially, if you do one run and your first tackle, you go down and you're hobbling. You got to wonder whether he should be on a pitch. But let's hope not. Let's hope there's nothing major.
Okay. Do the ITV commentary team need to chill out a bit on the mugging off of Tamifuna, Tamifuna, the big prop. They literally couldn't stop talking about how the minute he came off the pitch, he'll be at the Genghis Khan barbecue. We can say stuff like that. That's ITV commentary, and it's one thing to make the joke once, but they must have made the joke about 20 times.
There's nothing with a fat boy. That's your go-to joke, isn't it? There's not much else you can do. Do you know what?
That's for us. That's not for ITV.
That's true. I actually think ITV do the coverage quite nicely. There's small touches, like I was saying, afterwards. It can be a little bit tacky sometimes, but I guess because it's trying to be inclusive.
Yeah, you've got to. I 100%. I think, and do you know what? I think it's really good because there are those of us who are really into our rugby who played for many years and we still don't understand all the rules, but we get it.
Speak for yourself.
Then you're one of these ones. Then there's a lot of armchair pundits who have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. They just like to watch the game and pretend that they do. Well, this is good for them because they get to learn why they don't know what they're talking about. And then you've got the people who are interested in it but don't know nothing about rugby, and this is really valuable for them to understand the game better.
But I've exactly, and I think that's good. I think there's small touches as well that are quite nice. So I'm not sure if you saw, but when they're in that area, they're all in their socks out of sort of respect. I'm assuming out of respect for Japanese culture. I think that's quite nice.
Yeah,
I think that's quite a nice touch. So I think there's things that they've done that are quite good. I mean, the quality of sort of talent in that punditry team is huge. So Johnny, Delalio and Sir Clyde. You're like, yeah, okay. I'm listening, lads. I'm listening.
About winning World Cups. Dan, let me ask you, there was one violation today. That hit on Billy.
I didn't mind it.
I think that should be a penalty to England because no one should be allowed to hit Billy that hard. I'm not commenting on the wrapped arms and things. I always find it a little bit difficult to.
And he was low enough that I.
Yeah. So this is not a. I'm not shining a light on the tackle and trying to decide if that's the letter of the law and everything else. In some ways, I kind of think if you're smaller than the person you're tackling, then the rules are different.
I'll tell you exactly.
Billy does not get knocked back. It's against his religion.
It is against, but I'll tell you what happened. Billy only gets the 8-piece KFC bucket this week, not the 12-piece, because he should not be knocked back. I think Billy has to wear that one.
It was a big hit.
It was a big hit and well played. Well done.
I think situations like actually I was watching one of the replays of it, and there's a brilliant view of Joe Marler who's on his inside shoulder, and as the hit happens, Marler's face. I mean, it's going to be turned into a GIF at some point, I'm sure, because his eyes just open up like, "What the hell?"
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. I must admit, I didn't miss that.
Nice. I'll see if I can dig it out and put it on Twitter.
That yeah, please do dig that out. I missed that one. Overall, look, let's not piss about it. It wasn't the best England performance, but fine. We got a bonus point win, and we're top of our group in World Cup, and we're going to stay there.
Indeed. One last question for you, and we'll come on to. We'll talk a bit about this. No, I was going to say we'll talk about it midweek, but our midweek episode is going to end up probably being
the USA game.
The start of the USA game. We'll see. Maybe we do something on Tuesday, but if not, we'll cover most of it on Thursday. But obviously, we'll know the team by then. We'll be talking about the team that's been selected. Is there anyone just quickly now, because it's ahead of that game? He needs to take advantage. It's only a 4-day turnaround. He can't just play the same guys again. Who are we going to see? Who do you want to rest? I think probably is the biggest question.
I want to rest Billy. I want to see Wilson. I want to see Jack Singleton. Who else do I want to see? I want to see McConaughey again.
Launches.
Yes, Launchbury for sure. Anyone not involved today, I want to see on Thursday.
Big Joe on the wing.
Yes, Big Joe.
What about Piers Francis?
Yeah, I think that's the game to play him. Give these guys a rest. I don't think there's value in a few of them. I think maybe give another run out to.
I think particularly some of the guys that came off the bench. You could maybe get them involved. Give them a start.
I'd like to see front row Genge, Singleton, Cole. I don't even know if that works. I don't know. Yeah, that does work.
Yeah, that works. But I don't know. I think Luke Cowan-Dickie might get another run out.
Look, I'd like to see Singleton. Yeah, maybe, but definitely Singleton.
But the two of them, rest George. Give George the day off.
I want to see Willie Hines start.
Yeah, I think that's the right call.
I want to see not just from a rest Ben Young's perspective. I still find Willie Hines just adds a bit more pace.
So my question to you: so we're talking about trying everyone else out. We have a very good reason for why we want to try and utilise as much of the 31 as possible because of the short turnaround and everything else. But these are the games, these two, today and Thursday against the USA. Certainly on paper, that we don't need to worry as much about the result. They're kind of England should win them. However, there is an argument to say that England need to give their combinations, particularly their knockout phase combinations, the opportunity to get comfortable playing in games together. So you can't constantly have, we'll have a different team for each game, because you're always going to have people who potentially are a little bit rusty. And is there an argument to say that today a lot of the handling errors came down to players not necessarily being as comfortable playing together as you would be, say, when you're playing for your club, when you know each other inside and out, and that daily Slade thing on the outside. If they knew each other better, if they played together more regularly, they would know each other's minds, what they're likely to be doing.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I think now's too late to an extent to be worrying about that too much.
Well, no, but you have so the question becomes then: do you make wholesale changes for the USA game?
I think you make wholesale changes,
or do you try and give key combinations another run?
No, I think you make wholesale changes. I think fatigue's a big thing, and I think we've seen our combinations can work. Look at the Ireland game.
Yeah,
we're not talking about a game in the Six Nations. We're talking about a couple of games ago, and. Do you want to know one of the big things that we can take, which Eddie said, and the thing, we haven't conceded a try in 2 games. Yeah. Fair enough, not against the toughest opposition, but I think that's great.
And I think in the way the game's played these days, that's a really, really good result, because, any team can put a ball into the 5 metre and then win their line out, and then anything, they're right there. So yeah, I think defensively that's been a really strong point, and it's definitely one of the things that they can take out of this game as a real positive.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I still can't quite work out why Cole was given offside and they got that second penalty, because the Tongans knocked it on, didn't they?
I don't remember.
Tonga knocked it on into Cole, who then knocked it on. The second knock on wasn't given. Cole then booted it backwards, and he was given offside. I didn't really get it. Someone explain it to me, please.
I need to relook at the incident.
Let's do that, and we can answer that next time. But
yeah,
guys, thank you so much for joining us. The World Cup has begun. It's been 2.5 years in the making. This podcast, at least.
Yeah, the World Cup's gone on a bit longer. But
a little bit. But we've been backing them since the beginning, blindly believing in this team, and you'll find out in 6 more games' time why. But yeah, we really appreciate it, particularly those of you who've been with us since the beginning. But all of you guys who tune in whenever we post these episodes, it's awesome having you on board. We never would have expected it to have done as well as it has done. And obviously, that's down to you guys. So keep reaching out to us. Get in touch. The World Cup is upon us now. We want to react to your comments and your questions at England Rugby Pod on social media. Twitter's probably best, but you can get a hold of us on Facebook and we're even on Instagram, although I don't check it that often. EnglandRugbyPod@gmail.com. Send us an email, let us know your thoughts, and get over to iTunes if you want to rate us and review us and let us know what you think there as well. We'll obviously do our best to read out all of your comments and questions. And as we say every week, we want this to be a kind of a group discussion, don't we, Dan? So
absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, look, guys, we will leave you there. England, top of the table, bonus point win, looking strong. Onwards and upwards. USA next. That's on Thursday. And if you don't hear from us before, tune in after the game on Thursday to hear our thoughts. We will catch you then.